Hello there, you're watching All 24 World News program live from Algiers. These are today's top stories. Italian group Eni announces successful acquisition of British Petroleum's assets in the Ain Salah and Ain Amenas fields in Algeria. Also ahead in our news, Parliamentary Day event organized in Algeria in solidarity with the Sahrawi people for self-determination and independence. Zionist occupation forces raid Aqaba Jaber refugee camp and one Palestinian is killed while several others were injured. Also ahead in our news. And Nigerians awake to a new president with the ruling party candidate declared the winner of the country's election. Hello again and welcome to the program. First up in our news, Algeria's lower house of parliament chairman, Mr. Ibrahim Boughali, declared that the people of Western Sahara must be granted the right to self-determination and independence in order to ensure security and peace in Africa. His remarks were made during a Parliamentary Day event entitled No to Obstruction of the Sahrawi People in Self-Determination and Independence. Here's Hassan Barkan.
The Sahrawi Arab Democratic Republic recently celebrated its 47th anniversary of its proclamation, but the fight for independence and sovereignty continues. The Moroccan regime, which is occupying Western Sahara, is increasingly facing international isolation, as scandals like Pegasus and Morocco Gate highlights its human rights abuses and illegal activities. In Parliamentary Day dedicated to Sahrawi people, Ibrahim Boughali, chairman of the lower house of parliament, emphasized that the only solution to the conflict in Western Sahara is to empower the Sahrawi people with their right to self-determination. He warned against the Moroccan occupation's attempt to manipulate international legitimacy and called for African nations to unite in support of the Sahrawi people.
Africans need to move together to support the last colony in Africa and give its people their right to auto-determination in order to get their independence and sovereignty over their resources. There is no peace and security in the African continent as long as Sahrawi people suffer from colonialism.
Abdelkader Talib Omar, the Sahrawi ambassador to Algeria, also spoke at the event and exposed the Moroccan regime's malicious tactics to cover up its crimes in the occupied Sahrawi territories. He stressed the importance of upholding international law and human rights values in the struggle for independence.
The world has already discovered the malicious and scandalous methods used by Al-Makhzen regime in order to achieve its agenda, namely covering up on its crimes in Western Sahara, Morocco Gate, and Pegasus scandal, and using illegal migration, money laundering beside conspiring against the unity of the African Union. While Sahrawi people and its allies and friends demand respect for the international legality, respect of human values, which are honorable positions.
As the Sahrawi people continue their resistance against the Moroccan occupation, they are bolstered by the solidarity of many nations and peoples around the world.
The Moroccan Ministry of Foreign Affairs deleted a paragraph from a statement claiming it was a joint declaration with Vienna, which contained Austria's support for the Moroccan proposal in Western Sahara. However, in a series of tweets, the Austrian Chancellor, Karl Nehammer, clarified that the visit's purpose was solely to find solutions to the issue of irregular migration. Austria has made it clear that the visit had no relation to the Western Sahara issue whatsoever.
In a joint declaration, we agreed to strengthen cooperation in the fight against illegal migration. The focus is in particular on faster repatriations of Moroccan citizens who have received a negative asylum decision.
During the ongoing investigation into the Maroc case, former European MP Pier Antonio Panzieri made shocking confessions. He revealed the involvement of 3 Italian deputies who were elected to the European Parliament in 2019 by directing the vote in favor of Morocco, which had offered them bribes. Panzieri's confession is another indication of the scandalous practices used by Morocco to push its agenda, even resorting to bribes to secure votes. The Algerian Interior Minister, Mr. Ibrahim Murad, was received on Wednesday in Tunis by Tunisian President Mr. Qais Said, among the delegations participating in the proceedings of the 40th session of the Arab Interior Ministers' Council. The minister is participating along with the Arab countries' interior ministers and senior security delegations, in addition to representatives of the Arab States League. Also, Arab and international bodies. On the session's agenda tops a discussion about issues related to enhancing joint security cooperation, as well as the outcome of the Council proceedings and its various bodies. To a different development now, Italian group Eni has announced the successful acquisition of British Petroleum's assets in the Ain Salah and Ain Amenas fields in Algeria. Eni, which has been operating in Algeria since 1981, has become the largest foreign company operating in the country, with a production of 130,000 barrels of oil per day. For the first time, Algeria was ranked as the largest country that exported gas in Africa during January, according to a report issued by global energy data platform Refinitiv Acon. Algeria surpassed Nigeria, according to the platform, as recent data on liquefied gas flows in both countries revealed that Nigerian exports declined to about 1 million tons over the past month, while Algeria's exceeded with 1.1 million tons for the first time in its history. The head of the Libyan Presidential Council, Mohammed al-Menfi, expressed his support for what he described as all clear and detailed international efforts which lead to holding elections in the country, in reference to the initiative brought by the UN Special Envoy Abdoulaye Bathily, which is also supported by the Tuareg tribes in Libya.
The president affirmed support for any clear and detailed international efforts that lead to addressing the hold-ups of the constitutional base for the parliamentary and presidential elections during the year 2023, and that meet the desire of the Libyan people to choose their leaders.
We have been patient enough, and the time has come to end the policies of exclusion, marginalization, and unjust befalling the people of our society. We must start establishing sustainable development in our regions and involve us in building our country and its sovereign institutions in a real and a just manner.
To a different story now, Burkina Faso announced a military aid agreement signed in 1961 with France's cessation, weeks after it requested the withdrawal of French forces from its country, which is witnessing acts of violence carried out by jihadists. In a letter sent by Burkina Faso Ministry of Foreign Affairs to Paris on Tuesday, Ouagadougou announced the cessation of the military assistance agreement concluded in Paris on April 24, 1961, between the Republic of Upper Volta, the former name of Burkina Faso, and the French Republic. Burkina Faso gives French soldiers serving in the military departments in Burkina Faso 1 month to permanently leave after the letter receipt. The newly elected president of Nigeria will need to bring together his country as he faces security and economic challenges. Let's find out the story in this report by Mariam Zian.
Nigeria's ruling party candidate Bola Tinubu won the country's presidential elections in the most competitive and important elections since decades. Tinubu garnered nearly 9 million votes in the race against 6.9 million for candidate Atiku Abubakar and 6.1 million for Peter Obi, signaling the dominance of his party.
That Tinubu Bola Ahmed of the APC, having satisfied the requirements of the law, is hereby declared the winner and is returned elected.
However, Nigeria's main opposition parties denounced the results, saying a new election should be held.
It is our position that the purported result did not meet the minimum criteria of a transparent, free and fair election. In addition to the most condemnable attacks, violence, voter intimidation, and suppression, the election was conducted in clear violation of agreed and promised INEC rules and guidelines.
Meanwhile, the successor of Muhammadu Buhari defended the integrity of the election and thanked his supporters in the capital, Abuja.
I take this opportunity also again to appeal to my fellow contestants to let us team up together. It is the only nation we have.
A record number of 93 million electors voted to choose the leader who will have to restore the country's economy and to address recurrent violence by armed groups, as well as poverty and unemployment. Elections in Nigeria should play an important role in the region, as it's one of the largest economies in Africa and the most populous one in the old continent.
To Palestine now, where the occupation forces raided the Aqaba Jabir refugee camp in Jericho in the occupied West Bank on Wednesday. These attacks resulted in the death of one Palestinian, while several others were injured. Here's Nabil Khazini.
For the third day, the only gate to the world for the citizens of the already besieged West Bank remains closed. By installing checkpoints, the occupation authority continues their tight siege of the city of Jericho and its villages, adding more to the suffering of the Palestinians, who only on Wednesday were attacked by the Zionist forces who raided Aqaba Jabir refugee camp. As a result, a man in his 20s was killed. This adds to the scores of settlers who went on a violent rampage in the northern West Bank, setting dozens of cars and homes on fire. Palestinian Prime Minister on Wednesday visited the West Bank town of Hawara. He accused the occupation government of being akin to organized crime.
واضح تماما إنه هذه الأشياء ليست عشوائية.
It is quite clear that these things are not random. Some are trying to make things appear as if there is chaos within the Israeli government. We don't see chaos. We see organized crime carried out by the Israeli government, with the settlers as its tool, and under the protection and guarding of the army. Therefore, we hold the Israeli government fully responsible for what happened in Hawara.
كامل المسؤولية عن ما جرى في حوارة.
The Wednesday raid in Jericho coincides with efforts in the Zionist entity to pass legislation allowing for the execution of Palestinian detainees for alleged terror offenses. Palestinian factions and institutions and the European Human Rights Organization, meanwhile, called for international action to pressure the Zionist entity to prevent it from passing the legislation. Earlier on February, UN experts expressed grave concern about efforts to reinstate the death penalty. Since the beginning of 2023, confrontations have escalated in the West Bank, including East al-Qudus, and have resulted in the killing of more than 60 Palestinians.
The United Nations Secretary General, Mr. Antonio Guterres, arrived in Iraq for the first time in 6 years, showing support for the country's people, the new government, and its reform agenda. Guterres said he wanted to demonstrate solidarity with Iraq and Iraqis, and that the UN is totally committed to support the consolidation of the institutions in this country.
I expressed our steadfast commitment to support action that benefits all Iraqis through the United Nations Assistance Mission for Iraq and the entire UN family operating across the country. Action to bolster democratic institutions and governance at all levels to build trust. Action to improve public services and tackle corruption. Action to strengthen human rights protections and ensure accountability.
To a different story now, the Turkish President Recep Tayyip Erdogan announced that presidential and parliamentary elections will be held on the 14th of May as planned, despite the devastating earthquake. There had been suspicion whether that vote could go ahead as planned due to challenges posed to the authorities to prepare for the voting in the quake zone. And Erdogan has declared a 3-month state of emergency across the 11 quake-hit provinces.
Ve şunu iyi bilin ki
Know this well, God willing, this nation, the time is coming, will do what it needs to on May 14.
Gereğini yapacaktır. Ve asla bu tür kuru sıkı atanlara da prim vermeyecek.
Moving on now, after the AIEA report about detecting uranium particles enriched to up to 83.7% purity, very close to weapons grade that is, Iran denies ever having sought nuclear weapons and says it only wants to master the nuclear technology for civil uses. Marwa Belaiwar with more in this report.
Iran's nuclear chief confirmed that they detected highly enriched uranium particles at a nuclear site by international inspectors on Wednesday, was verified by the International Atomic Energy Agency, and that Iran has not exceeded the 60% level in its production line.
Regarding the 84% enriched uranium particle, it was a sample taken from beside a valve. It is a particle that can't be seen even under a microscope. What matters is the product that is stored after production. The inspectors examined the enrichment level of processed material and realized it didn't exceed 60% at all.
Iran says that the controversial files with the IAEA Commission have been closed in the last visit of the agency's delegation to Tehran, expecting to break the deadlock over the nuclear negotiations. However, the confidential quarterly report by the Vienna-based IAEA distributed to member states likely will raise tensions further between Iran and the West over its nuclear program. The US warned that Tehran's ability to build a nuclear bomb was accelerating.
Back in 2018, when the previous administration decided to leave the JCPOA, it would have taken Iran about 12 months to produce one bomb's worth of fissile material. Now it would take about 12 days.
The head of IAEA, Rafael Grossi, is expected to visit Iran on Friday for high-level meetings. Iran's possession of nuclear weapons created fear for many parties. More than a year of indirect negotiations between the US and Iran to try to restore the 2015 nuclear deal broke down in September 2022. Tensions between the two countries worsened after Tehran supplied Russia with drones during the Ukrainian war.
Moving on now, the Russian forces are still trying to encircle the city of Bakhmut, where they carried out attacks. Ukrainian armed forces said Russian troops are continuing to advance along the Bakhmut front. President Volodymyr Zelensky, for his part, accused Moscow of throwing waves of men into battle in Bakhmut and said the fighting was most difficult, but the city's defense still essential. During his nightly address on Wednesday, Zelensky also said that every Ukrainian had felt the difficulty of providing energy through the harsh winter.
In addition to the directions of the front, attention is also paid to the frontline territories, to those cities and districts that are under Russia's shelling every day and night, under deliberate terror. Nikopol and other communities of the Dnipropetrovsk region, Zaporizhia, Kherson, and the Kherson region, and the frontline part of Donbass, Kharkiv, Sumy region, Chernihiv region.
The Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko arrived in Beijing for a 3-day visit to meet with his Chinese counterpart Xi Jinping. The two leaders held talks to enhance their relations, and Lukashenko said that each of his visits to China brings him opportunities to learn from country's extraordinary experience.
We conducted exchanges and jointly decided to elevate China-Belarus relations to the level of an all-weather comprehensive strategic partnership, which has injected strong impetus to the cooperation between the two countries in various fields. A new orientation will definitely create new prospects.
I feel greatly honored to visit this friendly country again. Through each of my visits to China, I can not only discover new things about the unique country, its culture and people, but also get a good opportunity to see China's great development and changes, and learn from its unparalleled experience. I also thank China for its warm and friendly reception to me and our Belarusian delegation all the time.
The U.S. Secretary of State, Mr. Antony Blinken, said on Wednesday that he has no plans to meet either the foreign ministers of Russia or that of China during the Group of 20 meeting in the Indian capital, New Delhi. Both the Russian Foreign Minister Sergei Lavrov and the Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang are attending the meeting.
No plans to see either at the G20, although I suspect that we'll certainly be in group sessions of one kind or another together.
To another topical news now, the death toll in one of the worst rail accidents to hit Greece has risen to 38 deaths and many others remain missing. The Greek Transport Minister Kostas Karamanlis has resigned, saying that it is impossible to continue when something so tragic happens. It's worth recalling that a Greek passenger train collided head-on with a cargo train late on Tuesday, throwing entire carriages off the tracks.
We will investigate with complete severity and transparency the reasons for this tragic incident, but whatever we say now will be premature, and in this way we define the people that were lost. Thus, I would like everyone to show calm and focus on what I said. We will do everything to investigate the reasons and not leave anything under the carpet.
In the same context, and following the train deadly accident that happened near the city of Larissa in central Greece, Algeria has offered condolences to Greece. In a statement, the Algerian Foreign Ministry said, following the collision between the two trains in central Greece, which caused many deaths and injuries, Algeria sends its sincere condolences to the families of the victims and its sincere prayers for a speedy recovery for the injured. And finally, in our news, the Palestinian judo team arrived in Algiers to take part in preparatory training at the invitation of the Algerian Federation. The delegation expressed their joy to be in Algeria, emphasizing that the training sessions are part of their preparation for the international tournament scheduled for March 18th and 19th. The tournament serves as qualifiers for the Paris 2024 Olympic Games. This invitation extends the ongoing relationship and solidarity between Algeria and Palestine, demonstrating the support Algeria has for Palestine's sporting aspirations. Well, that's it for today's news. For more, you can always visit our social media platforms. From me and the rest of the team, thank you for tuning in, and bye for now.